They don't belong on this flight. You ever hear words so casual, so bland, yet so sharp they cut you right to the bone? That's what hit Jasmine and Jade Williams, 10-year-old twins, wide-eyed and nervously excited, standing there at Denver's Gate 37 with their purple backpacks, ready for their first flight alone. The gate agent didn't even try to hide it. He raised his voice just enough for everyone nearby to glance over, eyebrows lifting, curiosity turning to suspicion, and the twins? They just froze. Boarding passes in hand, perfectly valid. But we need to verify your documentation, he says, like they'd tried to sneak onto the flight, like they were invisible or, worse, not supposed to be there at all. Now, you might be wondering how in the world we ended up at this point. Two kids, all set to go, suddenly facing a wall they never even saw coming. Let me back up a sec, because the Real story started about 48 hours earlier, when their dad, Marcus Williams, was standing in his corner office in Chicago, skyline all golden and shimmering, feeling like he was on top of the world. See, Marcus is the CEO of Global Communications Network, and he's the type of guy who solves problems before most people even notice them. That day, he was reassuring his wife, Isla, who, by the way, is a professor out in Phoenix, that their girls would be just fine flying solo for the first time. They're ready, he said, with that calm CEO confidence. He'd set up their phones, programmed his direct line for emergencies, everything. He was so sure nothing could possibly go wrong. But life's funny, right? Marcus got pulled into a crisis at work, the kind of deal that could make or break a 5-year plan, the sort of pressure only people at the top really know. And so the girls' flight slipped to the back of his mind, replaced by board meetings and high-stakes negotiations. Out in Denver, their grandma Lois, warm, wise, still carrying the weight of marching for civil rights in her youth, hugged the girls tight, reminded them to call their daddy only for a real emergency. As they walked off with the airline rep, Lois felt that old, familiar ache in her chest, the sense that, even now, the world didn't always see her grandchildren for who they were. Jasmine and Jade were excited, nervous, but excited. But right away, little things started to go wrong. They noticed their seats weren't together, though Grandma swore she booked them side by side. Carol, the unaccompanied minor rep, tried to sort it out but seemed baffled by the ticket system. Still, she promised to fix it, and so the girls settled into the special waiting area with a couple other kids. But when it was time to board, Carol got called away. Suddenly, the twins found themselves standing in line with everyone else, nobody guiding them, just the two of them against a tide of adult impatience. And then came the moment. At the gate, a different agent, Keith, scanned their tickets. The machine beeped, he frowned, and just like that, they were told to step aside. Your boarding passes are flagged. We need to verify your documentation. No one else, just them. Behind them, a well-dressed older man, who'd been shooting them dirty looks, walked onto the plane without a hitch. That's when Jasmine, her hand shaking, pulled out her phone and whispered to her sister, "I'm calling Dad." You know that feeling when your world tilts sideways? That's what hit Marcus when his phone buzzed with the emergency override, a call only his daughter's, wife, or assistant could make. He stepped out of his boardroom mid-presentation, unflappable CEO mask slipping away. Jasmine's voice came through, thick with tears. "Daddy, they won't let us on the plane. They said we don't belong." Marcus went full crisis mode, his voice low and steady, the kind of calm that's actually a warning. He demanded to speak to the gate agent, got handed off, bounced between employees, all while his daughters stood alone, humiliated, on full display for a terminal full of strangers. He threatened lawsuits, pulled out every piece of leverage he had years of climbing, breaking barriers, all boiling down to this single, infuriating moment. Finally, a supervisor stepped in, apologizing, blaming paperwork, system glitches. Anything but the obvious. Marcus refused to let it go. He forced the airline's hand, the jetway door was reopened, Carol reappeared, flustered, and the twins were hustled onto the plane, still shaken, but now back together, side by side. You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? Problem solved. Kids on the plane, deal with it later. But it wasn't, not even close. Because Marcus knew, deep down, that this wasn't a one-off mistake. This was the kind of bias that hides in plain sight, woven into the systems, the algorithms, the attitudes people don't even admit to themselves. As the flight climbed toward Chicago, the girls sat quiet. The initial thrill of independence replaced by confusion and hurt. Brenda, the lead flight attendant, brought them snacks, activity books, and seeing their faces reassured them, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes the adults are the ones who need to learn. Back on the ground, Marcus wasn't finished. He put his entire corporate weight behind the issue, contacted the airline CEO directly, suspended all his company's travel with them, demanded an audit of every flagged unaccompanied minor, every so-called random security check. Social media picked up the story. A bystander's tweet about two little black girls denied boarding while everyone else walked on exploded online. The hashtag Flying While Black started trending, stories poured in. This wasn't rare, it was routine. When Jasmine and Jade landed, Marcus met them at the gate, alongside airline executives hastily flown in for damage control. The girls got formal apologies, promises of change, but they didn't ask for perks or free flights. What they wanted, what their father demanded, was accountability. A real answer. Why were we singled out? Why did the system fail us, not just once, but all the way up the chain? That question hung in the air, hard and honest. The answer, when it finally came, was even uglier than expected. The airline system had flagged unusual travel patterns, but the data, once Marcus forced an audit, showed a pattern: children of color, black children, being delayed, questioned, denied. The problem wasn't the girls. It was the system, the policies, the people who designed them without ever seeing kids like Jasmine and Jade as the norm. So Marcus kept pushing. The airline, under massive public pressure and the threat of losing multi-million-dollar contracts, grounded its entire fleet for 24 hours, put every employee through anti-bias training, overhauled their security protocols, even set up a passenger advocacy office to override algorithmic flags in real time. The CEO went on TV, admitted the pattern, apologized to the girls by name, promised the world would be different. And Jasmine and Jade? They watched, their parents beside them, learning the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, change only happens when you force it, when you refuse to accept no or not yet as an answer. That night, as the family sat together, exhausted but together, Marcus told his daughters, "You belong anywhere you want to go. What happened was wrong, but you stood up, and because of you, things will be better for other kids, too." Allah reminded them that every generation faces its own version of this fight, and every time someone speaks up, it ripples outward. And maybe that's the real ending, or the real beginning of the story. Two girls with purple backpacks, just trying to get home, sparked a corporate reckoning and a national conversation. The butterfly effect, they called it. A single call, a single moment, that ended up grounding an entire fleet and changing an entire company. So, let me ask you, where do you stand? What would you have done if it were your kids, your family? Share your thoughts in the comments. Is this justice? Is it enough? Or is it just the start of a much bigger change we all need to see? Because stories like this, they don't just belong to the people who live them. They belong to all of us, every time we decide what's fair, what's right, and what we're willing to do to make the world just a little bit better.